All right, Shona.
Good evening, everyone. Welcome to our take on it. This evening, guys, we have a very special guest. Before I introduce her, though, I want to acknowledge that today is Fat Tuesday, the kickoff for Mardi Gras in New Orleans. And my attire is to pay homage to my mother, who was actually from New Orleans.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's a little known Black history fact, guys.
Okay.
Okay, tonight we do have a very special guest. Her name is Dr. Tamika Quinn. She is a two-time stroke survivor, speaker, author, community educator. She is founder of GLAM, which is Giving Life and Motivation Incorporated. And this organization aims to provide awareness and prevention of stroke, heart disease, and childhood obesity. Um, as well as she is a staunch advocate for the sodium warning label bill. How did I do, Dr. Quinn?
You did amazing. Thank you so much.
Oh, beautiful. Oh, oh, oh. Okay, before we get started, Dr. Quinn, happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Dr. Quinn. Happy birthday to you.
All right. You see, Dr. Quinn, you see, I let her do the singing, so
Thank you so much.
didn't want to ruin your birthday by joining in with her. But that's that I.C. Norcom. That's that I.C. Norcom voice coming out of there.
Okay.
And might I say, it is very, very special. We feel very honored for you to spend this time
Indeed, we do.
with us today on your birthday, because you didn't have to do that.
Thank you so much. It's an honor for me.
Wow. Isn't it amazing that that your birthday is during Heart Month?
Right?
And I thought I was doing something by receiving my heart during Heart Month, but you were born during Heart Month, so you were definitely destined to be doing all the things that you're doing right now.
To
But
just be a sweetheart.
yes, indeed.
Aw, thank you.
Right. Okay. Go ahead,
Where do
Shona.
we
I
start on
didn't
your
want to.
journey? Where do we start? Okay, take us from the beginning of your journey. When did you start having any type of um, symptoms?
So
Or
I can tell you that I was pretty healthy up until I became pregnant with my youngest daughter.
A
And
Navy
so,
vet. Navy vet. So you had to
yes,
be in
I'm a
shape.
Navy veteran. Yes.
oh, okay.
And so I was 27 years old. And during that pregnancy, I developed preeclampsia. And that's high blood pressure during pregnancy. It developed while I was pregnant. And so my OB told me that, this is very common. It's going to go away as soon as you have the baby, because I didn't have high blood pressure prior to that. And I believed her. I thought that, you know, high blood pressure is something very common in my family. I didn't think it was a big deal. I had heard it multiple times throughout my life. And I believed my doctor when she said it's going to go away once you have the baby.
Of course.
I delivered my daughter, and during the labor and delivery, my blood pressure spiked very high. It was an emergent situation. I was actually kept in the hospital an extra day for them to try to get my blood pressure under control. And so my blood pressure did not go away once I delivered her. In fact, it continued to get higher. I was discharged from the hospital and prescribed medication for the high blood pressure. But in my mind at 27, I didn't really think that I needed medication, number one. And I also didn't think that this was something that was going to stay with me. I continued to believe, oh, this is just going to go away. It was 10 days after I delivered my daughter. 10 days from the time that my doctor said, maybe this isn't going to just go away. Let's start medication, before I had a stroke. I woke up 10 days after delivering my daughter with the worst headache I'd ever had in my life.
Mm.
I felt like an elephant was sitting on my head, and it progressively got worse throughout the day. I remember by around lunchtime, my mother was visiting because I just had the baby. She said to me, we need to go to the emergency room because this is not a typical type of headache. Like, this is not normal. But I didn't want to take my newborn daughter into an ER. And so we drove to a urgent care center, and they told me that they couldn't even treat me because I'm still under my OB doctor's care for 6 weeks. And for 6 weeks, no other doctor could treat me or even evaluate me. They took my blood pressure, which was sky high. They called my OB doctor, who told them that I had a history of migraines and I had developed high blood pressure during the pregnancy. So to give me something for pain and send me home, because she didn't have any openings for me to get back in to see her that day. I went back home in more pain than I arrived there in. And that evening, when my husband got home from work, he asked me, was this the same headache? I had been crying all day. Was this the same headache from this morning? I said, yes. He immediately took me to Centera Norfolk General Hospital. And walking into those doors, I can remember having an overwhelming feeling that I was not going to leave that hospital, that this was it for me.
Wow.
We walked through the doors into Norfolk General. I peed on myself, and that was the last thing I remember. They rushed me back, did a CAT scan. I woke up 3 days later in ICU. I'd had a bleed on the right side of my brain. The entire left side of my body was paralyzed. I was being told by doctors that I'd had a stroke, that I would never be able to walk again. The prognosis was very dim at that point. And 3 days later, I suffered a second stroke while in ICU in the frontal lobe of my brain. And so you're talking about 27 years old, being primarily healthy. I was overweight, but primarily healthy, being told that I'm going to need assistance for the rest of my life, not being able to walk again, having to relearn everything. And I mean everything from walking to talking, feeding myself, learning how to drive a car again, things that we typically take for granted.
With a new baby.
Yeah, literally. I tell people all the time, the hardest thing I've ever had to do in my life was learn how to tie my shoestrings. And we kind of give 3-year-olds a hard time about that, but it is very difficult after having any type of traumatic brain injury.
Wow. Dr. Quinn, I have to go back a little bit when you were talking about, you went to urgent care and they said because you were under the care of your your gynecologist, and they couldn't treat you because of that. Is that true? And I want to combine that with also her early diagnosis of you, and we've heard this often, especially with African American women, where the doctors misdiagnose or they think it's something else, even though you're telling them. And you think that was the case with you because, even I'll bring up on our other show, I brought up Serena Williams, and she had the issue like that during her childbirth where something wasn't right. And they told her, no, it's just post having a baby or something like that. And she almost left here.
Yeah.
Do you think that was the case with you? That the way they look at some African American women, in some cases, some doctors, not all, that instead of taking, because we always say, make sure you tell the doctors what's going on because that's half of what they use to make their diagnosis. But when you tell them what's going on, or you have these high blood pressure uh, readings, and then they still sort of shake it off. Do you think
Right.
that was the case with you? As far as what happens so often with African American women, or was that just something by chance?
Sadly, it does happen more often with African American women. The statistics don't lie.
Mhm.
The statistics tell us that disproportionately we are treated differently than our white women counterparts when it comes to healthcare, not just in terms of delivering a baby and postpartum care, but overall, Black women don't get the same level of attention than non-Black women get in when it comes to medical treatment. What I can say is that my OB doctor looked like me, and so I trusted her.
That's even more disturbing. I remember that. Go ahead.
Yes, yes, it's very much more disturbing. And so I can distinctly remember her saying things to me like, "Are we being over dramatic, Miss Quinn?" You know, just things that would dismiss concerns that I would have about my body. And I took that as a familiarity because she looked like me. And I trusted her level of authority because she had delivered many babies. She had the care of women and babies under her care for years. She'd done this. And so when someone that you respect, that you believe they have much more knowledge than you in that area, tells you this isn't a big deal, don't worry about it, you kind of lean towards that and not worry about it. And that's
Right.
where I was the day that I had the first stroke. I feel like it was a total dismissal of my symptoms, not just on the part of the urgent care center, but because they are relying on my OB doctor who is in charge of my care for 6 weeks. It was ultimately up to her. It was her call, and she made a bad call.
Wow. And that's almost unbelievable. And by comparison, my dad was a lawyer, and one time I was around him, and he was interviewing a client, and he kept asking the same question but different ways. And I was sitting there saying, why does he keep asking him the same question different ways? What he was looking for was consistency is in his answer. And I'm making that comparison because, a lot of doctors would do that. They'll keep asking you questions. So, it helps them. And I don't know why she failed on that part, but thank God that he had his arms around you to bring you through that because that could have ended not well.
Yeah, yeah,
Misdiagnosis. And like you said, the records show, and especially here in the city of Portsmouth and Hampton Roads, you get more African American women dying from childbirth. Uh,
yes,
that's something that you would think, that happened a long time ago when ladies were having babies in the woods. But with all the technology and sophistication we have, why is that those rates so high? And that's why you have to be an advocate for yourself, and you have to really pay attention to people like you that come around and talk and make sure you don't get as comfortable. Trust your doctor, but don't get as comfortable to the point where you know how you feeling, it's something wrong, and you let them dismiss it. And even if you have to go to someone else, you know.
absolutely. Absolutely. I think there is still, even though we have developed as a country in modern technology and modern medicine, there is still a long way to go when it comes to breaking those barriers, those perceptions that people in the healthcare industry have towards Black women. some of those perceptions are that we have a high tolerance for pain,
Mm-hmm.
or that, sometimes when we make these complaints, they're just over exaggerated complaints. A lot of times, those are preconceived notions that have to be broken by these healthcare professionals before they can truly go into providing a service where there are no preconceived notions about specific patients.
Wow.
That
Shona?
is unbelievable. So that means
Shona,
that you can even take care of your child.
Oh no. Oh no. I spent 3.5 weeks in ICU. And of course, we know children are not allowed in ICU. During that time, I was paralyzed on my left side completely. My mother snuck my daughter in under her clothes twice. So I saw her 2 times during my stay in ICU because my mom snuck her in under her clothes. A lot of times people thought back then the worst thing I was dealing with was paralysis or being in a hospital. No, the worst thing that I was dealing with was not being with my child that I just had. My
just had.
biggest
Yeah.
fear was not ever being able to walk. My biggest fear was that my baby would not remember that I was her mother.
Mm.
And so 3.5 weeks in ICU, a week in a step down unit. And when I was discharged from the hospital, again, it was with a very dim prognosis. I was told repeatedly, you'll never walk again. I remember having a conversation with one of the doctors because I have received so many complaints. I had fallen out of my bed multiple times because I would continue to try to get out of my bed. And so I was a high fall risk, even though I was paralyzed on one side. And the nurses would, Miss Quinn, why do you keep trying to get out of your bed? They put an alarm on my bed. So in ICU, I had an alarm on my bed so they could kind of catch me before I got out of my bed because of my weight shifting would set the alarm off on the bed. I remember having that conversation with the doctor who asked me, why do you keep trying to get out of your bed, Miss Quinn? You know that you can't walk. And I remember saying to him, well, there was this Olympian, he was paralyzed and now he's back running. And he looked at me like with this strangest look, like, are you crazy? Look like an Olympian.
So
That's very.
So they
Go ahead.
really are telling you you shouldn't even try.
I shouldn't even try. Like that should be the furthest thought from my brain. And I told him the devil is a liar. I rebuked that. And I rebuked every condemning prognosis that they gave me. I always knew that I would walk again. There was never a time that I didn't believe that. And I've had people ask me like, when did you know? Or, what happened that you believed? And every being in my body, I always knew that I would walk again. And I believe that has been one of the differentiators between where I am today and where I was 24 years ago now. My daughter just turned 24, and each time that she has, 23
She looks
years.
like your twin.
Anytime she has a birthday, I'm reminded how long this journey has been because I just had my daughter, right before this happened to me.
Yeah.
Bluetooth disconnected.
And doctor, you did everything right. And I guess it must be, and you go around talking about your experience and telling people what to do or what they should do. But actually, you did everything you were supposed to do. And I guess during your talks, you have to tell them to go that extra mile.
Yeah.
And I see, I have up there that your favorite stroke survivor, that's sort of like a brand for you where you make sure during your talks, you also make people know associated with the brain because that's where strokes, start.
I love
And
Yes.
talk a little bit about how you associate that or how you incorporate that in your talks. And the doctor in your name, you're not a medical doctor, but
Right.
uh, having the experience, and I'm not a medical doctor, but a lot of the doctors that worked on me didn't have heart transplants, so they can't talk from my vantage point, even though they are medical doctors. So go ahead.
Absolutely. Um, I will say this about my brand, Your Favorite Stroke Survivor. There was a time when I didn't even talk about what I'd gone through. I have survived 2 strokes, and it was almost like a secret. And I always give credit to my friend who really is the cause of me stepping out there, sharing my story, and this becoming a platform for me to help with awareness and prevention. It was my friend Jessica Larche Washington who invited me to an event years ago that she was hosting, a jazz stroke brunch with the American Heart Association. I went to that event with another friend of ours just as a guest to support. And to be honest, what got me there was the fact that they were going to have food. That was my only question. Will there be food? And she said, yeah, there's going to be really good food. This is going to be a nice event. They're going to have Zumba, all kinds of different things going on. It's going to be a lot of fun. So in my mind, I'm thinking food, dancing, a good time. Oh, I'll be there.
Bring it on.
And so, yes, let's do it. And so we go to this event. It was my first time at an American Heart Association event. I'm there as a guest with several other 100 people. And when it comes time to sit down and be served the food that I'd been looking forward to, my friend comes over to me and, she just comes over to the table and we're thinking that she's just coming over to chit chat for a minute, while the program is going on. And she says, Tamika, you won't believe what happened. And I'm like, what? What's going on? And she said, the speaker didn't show. And I was like, oh, okay. So what y'all gonna do? All right. And she says, well, do you mind sharing your story? And I said, what story? And she's like, your story. And I still was like kind of baffled because up until this point, I had never publicly shared my story. My friends, of course, knew my background, knew what I'd gone through, but that was to the extent of where I allowed that to even flow. I owned Pink Carpet Glam Girl Spa. I did spa parties for kids for a living. Even though my background is in training and development, I didn't have a problem speaking in front of people. That wasn't what I did about my business. And so, I sat there, I thought about it for a moment, and then our friend was like, yeah, you should, you should do that. I go up on stage, and for the first time, I just told my story, what happened to me, how I gotten to that point, all of the rehabilitation that I had to go through. Because I had a military background, and then my husband's insurance through his job, I had therapy daily. And I'm talking about physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. Every day I was in therapy. They were coming to my home. There was a rampant mission to get me back, at least to being able to use a walker to get around. And so I shared my story, and there were people running up to the stage when I finished to hug me, to thank me for sharing. And the American Heart Association had representatives there from 2 different regions. They were fighting over who was going to get me to be with their region. And so that is how that is how my journey started with the American Heart Association. And that is how I started sharing my story and using my story to really help so many people. It started from a friend seeing something in me that I didn't even see in myself, saying, hey, you can help these folks with your story. And so I always go back to that part, that sometimes people who are around you can notice things about you that you're not even thinking about yourself. And that also goes for signs and symptoms of a stroke. Sometimes it's someone else who recognizes, hey, something's off about you. It could be your facial features are looking off, or you don't usually talk like this, and you don't usually sound like this. Sometimes it's your friends who truly can save you. And so I just want to emphasize that part.
Wow, I, I met you at I first met you at an event, something like that, and it might have been the same event. I went to something like that, and I remember. I don't know if that was the same event, but I remember that's how I saw you. We didn't actually meet, but I remember going to something like that for my first time being involved with something associated with the Heart Association.
Okay.
And you got up and spoke. And if that was the same event, you couldn't tell that they just asked you to do that because you were really impressive and you really told your story well, and I found out I've been in those same situations and you're not prepared, but it's a story that you don't have to prepare to tell. You've
Yeah.
lived it, and it's
Right.
easy to get up, spirit of the moment, and do that. So we really
Yeah.
appreciate that. That's what you do, and then you dedicated a lot of your life now to doing just that, along with other things. I'm sorry, Shona. Did I cut you off? It seemed like you were about to say something.
Oh, it's quite all right. You watched A Star Being Born?
Oh yes, yes indeed. I saw her from the beginning. She doesn't remember me, but I remember her. And then periodically throughout the years, we would see each other at different events, and sometimes we'd be honored at the same event
Okay.
concerning the heart or stroke. And they always associated the Heart Association with the stroke people because the association is really clear there because the connectivity is.
Yes.
It makes it's a kinship that we form together.
I find that when you have a story such as yours, once you start telling it, it just flows. It just flows because in your mind you are reliving it, so to speak.
Right.
Um, no one else can tell it but you because you know every single detail. You are a very articulate woman, and I'm sure that that first impromptu presentation was just as good, if not better, than the last one that you did. I have no doubt. And I'm sure that you are very inspirational to a lot of people because just going through it with you, I just couldn't even imagine
Yeah.
what that must have been like for you for someone to be telling you, someone in authority to tell you that you'll never walk again. And
Yeah.
you've just given birth to a child.
Right. Right. It was something that I can't even describe the feeling. It was almost as if, and no disrespect to my family, because my parents are old school. If a doctor says this is how it is, then they're going to believe that.
Right.
And so even my family questioned my mental status for not believing these doctors. It was almost as if everything around me pointed to, this is the facts, this is what it is, and you should come into agreement with that. But I refused to come into agreement with that diagnosis. I refuse to believe that my life at 27 years old was going to be bedbound, dependent, or anything of the nature for the rest of my life. And I can tell you firsthand that the power of our mind is more powerful than we think, than we have been told or taught to believe. Our mind is so powerful. When I think about the faith that I have and the faith that I had at that time, carrying me through such a heavy weight, I'm living proof that when we believe, that is what it can turn into. That is where we can physically migrate to, just from the power of belief in our minds.
Well, Tamika, you're telling my story now because that's what I truly believe got me through the power of the mind. I mean, you can, your mind can take you to Mars. If you want to just fly to Mars, you can just within your
Yes.
mind you can fly to Mars. But
Yes.
anyway, and so how are things going now? Because you can't turn on your page now without seeing you walking or jogging and following you over the years. You have you started your exercising, then you backed off from it, and then you say, "Oh, let me get back to it." And a lot of times your videos with you jogging or walking, you film yourself and you don't even have to say a word. You're just leading by example. This is what I do. This is what you need to do. I don't need to say anything. Look, you know. So I'm not just telling you, giving you lip service, and I'm not doing it myself. But before we move on, talk about that journey. Where you had to decide within yourself once you got to walking again that now I'm gonna have to continue this healthy journey, a lifestyle, in order because stroke is in my history. Just because I had one and recovered doesn't mean it couldn't come back or I could, suffer the same thing. So talk about that.
Absolutely. And I just want to clarify that after I had those two strokes, I didn't make a decision right then that I was going to change my lifestyle. I was overweight. I ate very poorly. I ate like someone who had been raised in the South. My grandmother was from Waycross, Georgia, and my grandfather was from Port St. Joe, Florida. And every summer I spent with my grandparents. We would go down south for the summer. And my grandmother and my mom and my parents both can really cook. And I picked up cooking at an early age. I'm the oldest of three. I was cooking dinner since sixth grade.
Mm.
And so when I think about, just my upbringing and the types of food, we ate very rich, gravies, lots of starches, heavy meats. My upbringing and the way that I cooked as an adult was very unhealthy. And I didn't make any changes. I survived two strokes. And in the back of my mind, there was this mindset that I'm okay now. And that, for one, my weight was not a factor for me. I had a man. My husband passed away in 2011. But I'm going to tell you that at 27, my mindset was I don't need to lose weight. I feel good. I look good, even though I'm overweight. I'm not making any changes. It wasn't until 5 years after I suffered those strokes. My daughter at the time was 8 years old, and she was diagnosed with obesity and severe high cholesterol at 8 years old. That was my wake up call.
Mm.
That was when it clicked in my mind, you got to do something different here, because I did not want my daughter going through this exact same thing that I went through. And that is what her cardiologist said to me, is that if she does not get this cholesterol under control and her weight, she's going to go down the same road that you went down. And for me, that was a non-negotiable. That was, this is the line in the sand. Even though I didn't know how I was going to make a change, I knew that I was not going to continue living my life the way I had been. I felt like I had failed her in that moment. And so I know that there are a lot of parents who are in today that same space that I was in 5 years after having those strokes, not knowing how to help their child. And I can tell you that I sought out help. I sought out help from the pediatrician, from the cardiologist at CHKD. We enrolled in a program called healh that takes a family approach to helping the child. And so I learned about nutrition. I learned what foods that were not processed that we should be focusing on at home. We did a total recalibration in my home when it came to food. And so just for an example, my youngest daughter never ate school lunch because by then we had already revamped how we looked at food, and I took control over what my children put in their mouths. And so I wasn't going to let that responsibility fall on the school system because I knew that food was not healthy. I was taking responsibility for my children's health. And so that meant controlling what they ate at home as well as when they weren't at home. And it made a huge difference. My daughter lost 40 pounds. And in the process of helping her, I lost 80 pounds. And so people sometimes,
Your
you
daughter
know,
was 8 and lost 40 pounds, so she really
well,
was.
she didn't lose it all right away.
No, I mean, but still, that's 8 years old. And that's a lot. So I guess
Yes.
you did. That was a wake up call. Yeah.
Oh, yes,
So,
yes. She was very much overweight. In fact,
mhm.
um, just think about an 8-year-old. My youngest daughter, we would shop at places like the Children's Place or Justice or, you know, places that had cute clothes for kids. For my older daughter, the only place that I could get pants that would fit her waist was JC Penney
Yeah.
because they had husky. And so I could get a size that had the husky, which meant it had extra waist room for her. A lot of her pants I would have to get hemmed, take them to a tailor to get him because I couldn't even find children's size clothing that was appropriate for her, but would accommodate her waist. There was a huge issue when it came to trying to help my daughter, but not making her feel bad, not hurting her feelings,
Right.
but still,
They go through
encouraging
some
her.
things. Yeah.
Right, right. And so there is a huge gap when it comes to resources and information to help parents who were in the same exact space that I was in. But I can tell you that that is one of my goals is to help those parents who are just like me with children who are struggling and parents who just don't know which way to turn to help them.
Wow. That was.
Ooh,
Wow. And no telling how long you would have gone with, because many of us do that. We are healed and we say, okay, well, I'm healed and I can go eat the pig feet and and all the things that probably put me here in the first place. But
Right,
you're not really thinking because you feel good, and then you get those wake up calls, and then you have to make that adjustment and really get serious like you did. So that
right.
this
was
this is why they call high blood pressure the silent killer.
Hmm.
yeah,
Yes,
This is
yes,
why, because when you, for a lot of people, you're not even symptomatic at all until it's far into the danger zone because
yes.
you feel okay. You
And
may
let me
be
well,
let me just reiterate about the blood pressure.
mhm,
It is the silent killer. You are so right. It is 80% of strokes and heart attacks and things of that nature can be prevented. One of the major factors is hypertension, high blood pressure. 1 in 2 people have hypertension. And so when we think about just being able to control that, we can prevent so many strokes, so many heart attacks, so much heart disease just by managing our blood pressure. But it's not talked about enough. Enough emphasis is not placed on managing our blood pressure, which is really where a lot of metabolic illness starts, is with
Mhm.
our blood pressure.
Mhm.
yeah. A lot of people are walking around like chicken time bombs,
That's
and
true.
Yes.
and don't realize it. And if you get used to feeling a certain way, that's when you really don't pay attention to it because, oh, my
Yes.
head always hurts, or I always feel this way, and
I'm
you
tired
know,
because I'm getting old.
yeah,
Right.
I'm just getting older now. That's why, that's why I'm having a hard time breathing when I walk up one flight of stairs.
Right. One of the
You
one of the
we
main
make
ones I
all
hear.
excuses. Hmm.
Yes. One of those, the main excuses, a prevalent excuse I hear now, just in my age range, is that, oh, I'm sweating because I'm going through menopause. I must be in perimenopause because my heart's racing and, I'm sweating. Oftentimes, it has nothing to do with that. Many times, it is an indication of high blood pressure that so often people don't want to admit or address. And so it's comforting to blame it on peri or menopause. It's very comforting to blame it on age. It's easier to do that than to actually address the real issue, which many times is high blood pressure.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm gonna
indeed. And
say something that,
uh,
you know my philosophy on life is that I would much rather hurt your feelings and you live than not say anything and you die.
right,
We have to get to a point where we don't focus on the work that it's going to take to change. And so many times that is what our focus is on. Oh, that's too hard. I couldn't possibly eat healthy because healthy eating costs more. Well, actually being unhealthy costs more. It can cost you your life,
like,
which should
mm,
be the most important thing to you, but the second most important thing is your quality of life. So
Hmm.
if it costs you more money to eat healthy, but it elongates your lifespan and elongates the time that you have a quality of life. I couldn't imagine becoming a grandmother. I don't have any grandchildren yet, but I couldn't imagine
mm,
becoming a grandmother and not being able to physically,
Oh,
I
yes.
mean, physically enjoy being a grandmother, physically enjoy running and walking with my grandchildren, going on field trips with them, taking them to amusement parks, taking them to the library. I couldn't imagine that the choices that I'm making today stripping me from that. I couldn't imagine that. But there are so many people who they only focus on what they would have to sacrifice today. Oh, I wouldn't dare want to give up my chips or my cookies or my pork or my beef. But when you think about the bigger picture, what you're giving up today, what choices or decisions that you're making today, you are either depositing or borrowing from your future. And once you get that in your mind, that is what each decision equates to, it will be easier for you to make those better choices because you know that these choices are adding to your future. It's adding to the joy that you're going to have. And that's just the space that we have to get to. It's a mindset.
it really is.
You better say
And
that, Dr. Quinn.
yes, indeed.
Because
And
the
and
choice.
we're gonna go on and talk about some of the things you're doing now. But a lot of people that make those yearly trips to the doctor, that's the only time they check their blood pressure. And you can, just like you go out jogging, just like you start eating healthy, you can check your blood pressure periodically in between those times when you are not going to the doctor on a regular basis. You got to take control of your health. And in between those visits, you need to know what's going on. And the doctor has me, keep track of that. So when I visit him, he has something he can look at. Okay, so during this time, your blood pressure was kind of elevated. What was going on there? And I might tell him, well, those pig feet I had. No, I didn't have no pig feet. a lot of times, and the heart trouble I had made me a type 2 diabetic, and I have to take control over that. So I usually check, several times a day. And if it's high, I usually know why, because I
Yeah,
cheated. But, at least I know, okay, but I eat that again. It's not
right.
always sweets either. You have to know
That's
what you
right.
can do as a diabetic.
That's
But
right.
anyway, let's look at some of the things that you're doing now. You got so many different projects, but we want to talk about this one
So
that's
many
coming
fun.
up. So let us know about that, because it looks like it's also an awareness thing, but it's also teaching you how to have fun while you're being healthy as well.
Mr. Overton, you are so modest here. We are actually going to be recognizing survivors, and you are one of the survivors that we are going to be recognizing at Heart Trails. I'm so excited.
Yes, I'm so honored by that. When I got the news, yeah, I was really honored, and thank you. Sometimes being honored by people that you've known for a while, that have been through some things that are similar to you, it makes it a little bit more special, because they understand the struggle, and
Yes,
we on the same mindset, because when you talk about how strong the mind is, that's the one of the single things that got me through everything. And one of the doctors told me that your attitude and your approach to what's going on was half your battle.
wow.
We can only do but so much, but you have to feel within yourself that, hey, I'm gonna make this thing, or either way, I'm going to accept whatever God has, whatever plans He has for me. So, because I could worry myself into bad health, into worse health.
I just
So
remember when I first heard your story that you were a heart transplant survivor. I was just blown away because I remember thinking I would never look at you and think that. I would never, expect that to be your story because you look so great. You look so healthy, and you were always at different events that I was at.
yeah,
And I would think, wow, a transplant, that is amazing. And so we definitely want to honor you at Heart Trails, Boots on the Ground for Heart Health. Is this February 28th? We are going to have not only awards for survivors, but Dr. Keith Newby, who is a
yes,
trailblazing cardiologist in
indeed,
Hampton Roads. He's very well known, very highly educated. He is our guest speaker. So there will be heart health information. We have vendors that are going to be there. And one of the main things that we have incorporated for this event is movement. And so
yeah,
there will be lots of line dancing. I've been trying to learn some of these line dances so that I'm prepared. But line dancing is a big thing around here, and folks take it seriously. I mean, there are so many line dances, and I'm just amazed,
yeah. I'm
how
I'm
serious.
still doing the Cuban shuffle, and that was 20 years ago.
Oh,
And,
there's
and
so many.
James, it's the Cupid shuffle. Poor thing.
Cupid, what I say, Cuban? I'm still doing it in Spanish, but I'm gonna do my best out there. And my
Okay.
warning for the people: if I'm out there in the line, just watch your toes, because
And I want
just
to let everyone
have
know there is
steel
no
toe boots.
Yeah. There's no dress code. Some folks will probably wear rodeo themed outfits. And, if you want to wear your boots and your cowboy and cowgirl hats, that's awesome. But you don't have to. There
And
is no dress code. You come comfortably, however you feel comfortable coming to attend. We're going to have brunch provided. It's going to be a really nice event. And, I'm looking forward to it because as a survivor, there are not there are not many things that we can go to and know there are going to be other survivors like us there that are going to be attending this event. And this is a safe space. We're just so excited. Glam, Giving Life and Motivation Inc., my nonprofit, is actually putting this event on. And the board members have gone above and beyond to make this a spectacular event. And so I'm so excited.
Yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun. Are tickets still available? Because the tickets are real reasonable to come there and have a good time. And you can talk about the tickets, and also if people like to make contributions to the efforts that.
Yes. The event website is glamevents.org. There's no www necessary. You just go to glamevents.org, and you can purchase your tickets there. Tickets are only $25. This is a fundraiser. And so all the proceeds are going to Glam, Giving Life and Motivation, Inc. And we do wellness events in the community. We provide resources to the schools. We go into the schools, speak to the children about nutrition, about making healthy choices. We do blood pressure screenings during events all across Hampton Roads. And so even if you don't plan on attending this event, like say you're tuning in now from Philadelphia, my hometown, you can still go to glamevents.org and make a donation that will help Glam continue to do the things that we're doing in the community. And we will greatly appreciate it.
Yes, and you said I was humble, but I'm not that humble.
James, you are humble. And I just wanted to say that everything that you said about James, as far as you would never, ever guess that he had been through that, if you didn't know that he had been through that, could also be said about you.
Oh,
Oh
thank you.
yes, indeed.
You are definitely you should have miracle written across your picture. That is simply amazing. You would never know that you had been through all of that.
Thank you. God is good. God is good.
Yes,
I'm so thankful I don't look like what I've been through.
I say that all the time.
Yes.
I say that
Yes.
all,
So what a
and
great
it's
story.
your
And
faith. It's your faith
Yes.
yeah, faith
for
has a
both of
lot
you.
to
Well, for
do
all
with
three
it.
of us, it's your
Yes.
Yes.
faith.
And Dr. Quinn, Shona has a very impelling story as well. So you can go to
Okay.
one of I'll send you the video
Okay.
as a domestic violence survivor. So,
Oh, wow.
uh, and she told her story, and she didn't know if she could get through it, but she did it. And I'm sure her story, helped a lot of people
I'm
uh,
sure.
make decisions that were in the best interest of them at the
Yeah.
time, because it's one of those things that is kind of hard to get out of. I mean,
Yes.
people will say, "Why don't you just leave?" Well, you know, it's
I
not that
did.
hard to leave
Right.
somebody that has those kind of behavior patterns and
Yeah.
control over,
Yeah.
the person they're with. You know,
Right. Right.
so, so I was going to ask too. You on your speaking engagement, do you ever get to Atlanta? Because that's where Shona is. That's where she comes. This P
Oh,
Town
you're
to
in
ATL.
Atlanta.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Um, I do go to Atlanta often.
Really?
I was just there this past June. But I do have speaking engagement coming up in Chicago in March. But yeah, I travel.
Now, I didn't see a Facebook page for you per se. It's your events page, I guess.
Okay.
Okay.
I think
So,
you have two pages up there, don't you,
Yes, I have
Tamika?
I have several Facebook pages. My handles on everything is Dr. Tamika Quinn, and that's Facebook, Instagram, or YouTube. But I also have a page called Your Favorite Stroke Survivor on Facebook and Instagram. And so that's just strictly, heart health information and speaking in events, or, like the Heart Trails events is coming up. But all of my pages are Dr. Tamika Quinn. You can find me.
okay, that's very good to know. Uh, I will be
And I
there.
just want to also clarify too, I know we spoke on it briefly that I am not a medical doctor. All the information that I share is from lived experience. I received my honorary doctorate's degree last year in 2025 in humanitarianism for all of the community outreach and community projects that I have done over the years. Um, I was honored with an honorary doctorate degree. And so someone shared with me prior to me accepting that, because it was like, is this something that I really want to like, take seriously? And someone shared with me that, when people reach the level of having a master's degree and then they go on to get their doctorate degree, there is a certain level of study that is involved, amount of time, but they are expected, once they earn that doctorate, to go out and make an impact in the world. They are
Yes.
expected to do the work after receiving their earned doctorate, right?
Right.
Yes.
When you receive an honorary doctorate, the work has already been done. You're receiving the honorary doctorate for the work that you did already. And
Right.
so I am honored that an organization thought enough of the work that I have done in the community to honor me with a honorarium, an honorary doctorate degree. And so I wear it proudly. I wear it proudly because of the work that I've done to not be taken lightly. And that's how I look at my doctorate status.
Good. And you should. There you go. There you go. Yeah, I wonder how Dr. Slim would sound. I wonder how
I think
Dr.
it
Slim.
sounds great.
Yeah. It's still time. Just like the old folks used
That's
to say, keep
exactly
on
right.
living, keep on
That's
living.
right.
You
You
That's
are
know,
right.
certainly deserving.
Thank you so much.
you wouldn't be able to touch me. I'll be walking my head so high, and the clouds would be touching my head. Dr. Slim. Excuse me. Do I know you? No, I wouldn't be that way.
I
I would
do
turn.
think that
They
there
they,
are
they better not
levels.
give me that because I might turn into a prude. It might go to my head.
I would just that just reminds me that when I first came to Atlanta, um, the first real job that I applied for, I I was up for a position to of going around. I forgot what the title of the position was, but I would be going around to encampments and places where homeless people hung out and educate them, you know, um, give them resources, that sort of thing. So I applied for this job, and I applied for a job at AT&T. Well, I didn't get the job, advocating for the homeless, and I was truly taken aback. The person who got it over me had this college degree in whatever, probably sociology or something like that. But I was truly taken aback because I felt like I was more qualified because I had lived it.
Mm.
So, um, my point is, I feel like there are levels of pride, um, in respect to the things that you earn in life, not necessarily education, but just the um, just the things that you learn in life.
Yeah, I agree. Lived experiences absolutely matter. Um, and when I think about different um, industries, um, my father, let's use for an example, my father has been a counselor, a mentor, a person of influence within the NA community. He would
Mm,
not be able to impact so many lives that he's impacted, even prior to him retiring, worked for the prison system in Tennessee, a counselor there. And so his lived experience of overcoming addiction has made him such a person of
An
influence,
expert.
an expert, yes, in that area, because not because he has a master's degree, not because he's spent all these years getting, education, but his lived experience is expert level. And sometimes it isn't even about, like you're saying, the degree. That experience really trumps that in certain areas.
Yeah, not taking away from the people that go out and
Right,
work hard and earn that degree, but the
right.
lived experience has something. That's why we should reveal why we should respect our elders more. You know,
Yes.
I think
Yes.
it's a little different these days because uh,
A little.
it's just different now because when we were coming up, and I think well, Shona and I, even though she looks like a little kid, close to the same age. And did I say something wrong, Shona? I'm sorry, but I think I told on you when I said we graduated from high school together. So that's
Oh,
telling. Not
wow.
unless you, not unless
Dr.
you were a
Quinn, I
prodigal
have
child and you
6
graduated.
great grandchildren.
Oh, wow. You look amazing.
And when you were talking about being deprived of being able to do things with your grandchildren,
Yeah.
I'm telling you, one of the best things I have ever done in my life was last summer when I went to Florida with my family, and I swam in a swimming pool and played with a lit beach ball with my great grandchildren. It was just me and my great grandchildren. We had so
Wow.
much fun in that pool.
She didn't go to
With
work for a
your
week.
great grandchildren. Your
Great
that's
grandchildren.
what I'm talking about, with your great grandchildren. That is
Yes,
amazing. Oh,
yes.
I love that.
And that's why her, and we're about to close, but that's why her story is so important because the resilience it took for her to endure that for about 8 years and then finally decide, look, I got to get out of here. Well, if you see the story, you'll see the complete story
Yeah.
and why she ended up uh, where she is now. And she probably would have done all those things if she was here, but not in the situation she was in at the time.
Yeah.
So,
I probably would
and
need
six great grandchildren.
visit
I have
the
one
Lemon Torch.
granddaughter. I have one granddaughter. If I had six great grandchildren, I
Yeah.
probably would run away from home. I don't know. It would be a little much for me to to take.
Well, they
No, I
don't
wouldn't
live
run away
with
from home.
me.
But you can take them in and send them back. But thank
Wow.
you again, Dr. Quinn, Tamika. I really appreciate.
Sorry not
Of
having
course,
you.
we have you back because you always have so much to share with
Yes, you have to come back.
any audience that you are in front of. It's a lot of things you're doing. Not only the Heart Gala that's coming up, it's some other things that you do year round. So feel free to come back anytime. It doesn't always have to be about health. We can talk. I know you have other interests that you can talk about. Uh, we don't talk politics on here too much. I have another show for that, but
Well, I
that can
will,
get deep.
I appreciate that. And I will say that right now, one of the main things that my focus is on is getting this sodium warning label bill in
Oh yeah,
Virginia
Yes,
pushed
let's speak on
forward.
it.
yeah. Before
Yes,
you go, talk a little bit more about that. I
Yes.
almost forgot about that because that's important. I think a lot of people are not aware of how important or what it takes. You know that it's going to take something like that in order to make a difference. People don't even think about the
yes,
sodium intake and how we're not protected from it.
right. And so when we talk about high blood pressure being such an issue, where it is a contributing factor to many diseases, in fact, it's the starting point of a lot of disease, high blood pressure. one of the things that we can do to manage our blood pressure is manage our sodium intake, our salt intake. And so let's just say that somebody is not at the level where I am taking control of everything that I eat and, making sure that I don't exceed a certain amount of salt each day. What if someone is just starting, has just made a decision that, hey, I'm going to, start looking at my health a little differently and making better choices? Well, if you're eating out at a restaurant, you don't really have the control that we think about when we're at home, because we don't know how much sodium are in the prepared meals that we're getting when we go out to eat. And I can just give you an example. The American Heart Association has, given us amounts of sodium that we should not exceed in a day. And there are meals that you can go and have right now today at restaurants, one meal that far exceed what the American Heart Association says we should have in an entire day. There is no type of regulation when it comes to that. Um, the American Heart Association can make the recommendation, but there is no enforcement or oversight for restaurants to adhere to that. So it's totally up to us how much sodium we are going to allow to go into our bodies. What we're asking, or I'm going to tell you that we have a legislator that is working so hard. And I just want to give a shout out to Delegate Cliff Hayes. Delegate
Oh yeah,
Hayes is
good
like our
good friend of mine. Yeah.
Okay.
yes, he's like a superhero when it comes to legislation and trying to make things better for us here in Hampton Roads. And he is the one that is behind getting this bill on the table in this current session. We've had one committee meeting a few weeks ago in Richmond, and right now it's really at a point where restaurant owners aren't too happy about any type of legislation that's going to make them have to, one, change their menus,
I'm sure
disclose
they
the
have a
amount of
strong
sodium.
lobby there.
Oh yes, they had
Yeah.
their restaurant association show up
Hmm.
to that committee hearing and was totally opposed to it. And when you're thinking about any type of legislation being passed, you do have to take every side, the whole picture into consideration. And so right now there's some revamping of the wording in the bill. There's going to be additional information like from other agencies, government agencies, that's going to have to be put into the bill. It's being reworked. And so
Hmm.
we're hoping that we can come to an agreement this legislative session. But even if it doesn't happen, I was part of the sodium warning label bill being passed in Philadelphia. I actually had to give my testimony at that hearing years ago. It is a law now. It is mandated in the city of Philadelphia that if a restaurant chain has more than 4 locations, they have to disclose any meals that have more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium in them. And what does that look like? It looks like a warning, like a yellow yield sign on the menu next to that item, letting you know as a consumer, oh, this meal has more than 2,300 milligrams of sodium. It doesn't say don't buy this meal. It doesn't say don't eat this. It's awareness. It's letting you know that this meal has this much or more sodium in it. And if I am conscious about my health, I can make better decisions when I'm informed about those decisions that I'm going to make. And so that is the legislation that we are praying gets passed here in the state of Virginia. And it's a big deal and it's taking longer because it's not just a city. We're talking about an entire state
Right, right.
having to be
Do you
revamped.
know if he's the sole sponsor or does he have co-sponsors of this bill? Because sometimes that's important, who the
Yes,
co-sponsors are.
the co-sponsor is Delegate Bonita.
Hmm.
And so Delegate Hayes is leading, and Delegate Bonita is the Delegate Bonita Anthony is the co-sponsor.
Yeah. Okay, well, great. I hope that goes through. And like you said, you can't give up. Sometimes, if you don't make it this time, you come back, and often people give up on bills, but you have to come back. Sometimes it takes a while to get that through. And I think that's very important. I think you can make a case in the state of Virginia, especially in the Hampton Roads area. We have high incidence of heart disease and
Yes.
stroke victims and things like that. If you want to look at the numbers and show those to those restaurant association. Look at the
Yes.
numbers here. Look what's happening to the people.
Yes.
Dr. Quinn, look at you. You made a difference in Philadelphia. That's major.
Yeah, that's your hometown, right?
Yes.
Yes. Did the Navy bring you here?
The Navy brought me to Virginia. Yes.
Like many people. This is a Navy town.
Navy town for sure.
And you loved it so much you just stayed. This is
loved it so much I just stayed.
Yes.
Yes.
Well, okay. Thanks again, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Yes.
And I was trying to play a little out music, but Shona, you have any last words you would like to say to our guests?
Yes, again, happy birthday to you, Dr. Quinn. Thank you so much for giving us this time that we have shared with you. And I am so looking forward to you coming back. People need to hear your story. It's an amazing story. And you're right, you don't look like what you've been through. Right. And now you have become my favorite stroke survivor.
Oh.
we all survivors on this feed tonight.
Yes, we're all
survivors and have something to share. But
yes.
Anyway, thanks. And thanks everybody for watching. We appreciate you. Make sure you subscribe to our channel. Help us grow. And make sure you hit that like button. And even if you subscribed already, make sure you hit the like button each time you watch one of our videos. We're a new channel, and we're just trying to grow, and we're just trying to share information that might help somebody out there. It might encourage you to do some of the things that the people that come up here and share their personal stories, and hopefully it's something that you might have gone through as well, and it will encourage you to be resilient and just take care of yourself and be an advocate for yourself, especially when you go to those doctors. You might not have a medical doctor degree, but you can be an advocate for yourself and make sure that whatever they're doing to you is going to benefit you. You're your own advocate. Thanks a lot. We appreciate it. And any last words, Dr. Quinn?
Last words would be, you are worth it. You're worth it. No matter what it is that you have to do to ensure, like Shauna here, that she is living a wonderful life, enjoying her great grandchildren, swimming, playing, having a wonderful quality of life. You are worth it. You're worth having that. Make the decisions today that you are not going to any longer borrow from your future, but you're going to add to your future.
Oh, they definitely words to live by. Thanks a lot. We really appreciate that. And take care. And everybody, we'll see you next time on Our Take on It, featuring Slim and Shona. Take care.